Welcome to Oink Time Podcast. I'm Jen Carnovale.
I'm Ben Ellwood.
You can now contact us. Let us know if you have any words for the hat. Our Twitter at OinkTimePod, or you can contact us on Gmail, oinktime@gmail.com. You can find me on Twitter at Jen_Carnovale.
And I'm at Ben Ellwood 11 on Twitter. Brisbane Oinkers. I am there on the 18th of July with the great Eric Hutton. We're filming some stand-up comedy. It's a 3-camera shoot. It should be a lot of fun. We'll be at the Junk Bar, which is 215 Waterworks Road in Brisbane, Queensland, kicking off at 8. It's free. Please fucking come.
Check them out.
Filming will be better if there's an actual audience.
And little piglets, if you're if you're in Sydney, I'm at the Giant Dwarf on July 13th for Comedy-ish, The Bits We Kept, with an awesome lineup. Becky Lucas, Cam James, who's an old oinker, a bunch of others. So do come check it out. Today we had a great chat with Sian Smyth, comedian from Sydney, about wonderful things like hope and the apocalypse.
Hope for the apocalypse.
It's a great talk. We think you guys are going to really enjoy it. Do listen.
Hey guys, how you going? It's Oink time. Let's do it. It's earlier than normal.
That's Benny's natural opener for people to put them at ease, Sian Smyth.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for chatting with us, Sian.
How are you, Sian? Comedian, up and coming rising star of the comedy scene. And someone who's not afraid to abuse a crowd, which is something that I always respect in a new comic.
Yeah? I'm just out of my fucking mind.
The best comics are the people that are out of their minds. Like, fully, like, completely. How long have you been doing stand-up?
5 years, but I didn't do it for like 2 years because I was like mental and went to like a psych ward and
really?
All that sort of stuff. And I was just like too crazy to do comedy.
Too crazy. That's like a total oxymoron. Too crazy to do comedy.
That's a real...
No, but I was just too because I think when you're mental, sometimes you can be really like just obsessed with yourself. And when you're like obsessed with yourself, I don't think you can write comedy as well. If you're just like obsessing over how like you're perceived as stuff.
Yeah, that's the hard thing with starting comedy. It's like you go in, I think, very pure because you don't really know what you're doing. So you just kind of are yourself. And then a year or two in, I know I had this like total kind of like postmodern breakdown where I was like, well, what is it about me that is funny?
Yeah.
What do I do that's naturally hilarious? And it creates this whole feedback loop of like anxiety because you're trying to recreate an impersonation of yourself rather than relaxing into yourself.
Yeah, and like caring more about how like you're perceived than like what your jokes and like focusing on jokes and stuff. Like
you're more concerned with what people are thinking of how you are.
Like what your character is, I guess. Maybe it's like dumb when you're like 19 and you start young and you're kind of like, I want people to like me or I want to be perceived as cool.
But that never changes.
And also you don't even, I didn't know who the fuck I was when I was 19. When I started doing comedy not even that long ago, like I remember at 26 doing a set and it going pretty well and being like, this is total. Like I was like being really polite and like really kind of shy and I was like, this is not me at all. And it took me ages to figure out what I wanted to talk about.
Just to be the dried up old husk that you actually are on stage.
And I'm so fucking into it.
Yeah.
But
once I admitted that I had a lump of coal for a heart, I became much more comfortable on stage.
You've seen her being a shrew in the back of the room. That's my opening.
So you said before that you you'd cared too much about what people think. Are you saying now that you don't care what people think?
Yeah, fuck 'em.
I don't know. I still care about it, but I don't think I care about it to the. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, for example, when I started doing stand-up, I was 19 and I thought I was a lesbian. But I just, like, had all this material about being a lesbian, about 5 minutes about being a lesbian. And then I wasn't a lesbian and I was like, I can't write anymore.
I've got to ditch my whole fucking act. You know that a hackier comic would have just pretended to be a lesbian to not throw out the jokes. Fuck.
Yeah, and then I was like, but like I kept like trying to write jokes about being a lesbian. Yeah, I kept trying to write jokes about being a lesbian even though I wasn't a lesbian. So then like all my jokes just fucking sucked.
Yeah, and Chris was telling me how...
But I wanted people to think I was a lesbian because I thought that was cool.
Yeah, he said he spoke to you about it the other day and you were like, but you weren't just like, I'm a lesbian. You were like, fuck you guys for judging me for being a lesbian.
We didn't know. Are you talking to us or the fucking voices in your own head?
I think I was talking to the voices.
It's so weird with the caring though, because it's like, you know, you're only really funny on stage when you at least have the veneer of not caring.
Yeah.
But you still got to care. Like,
or you just have to look in control, I think.
But Yeah, I think what it is caring more about the jokes. Like you have to care more about like the jokes you're writing than like yourself.
Do you care more about how you're perceived by the audience or how you're perceived by other comedians?
By other comedians.
Of course.
Isn't that so fucking? It's so
No.
that's like
No, because they're your peers. Like, the audience doesn't fucking know anything. Like, they're just the schmoes that are in there for the night that don't really have any gauge on what's funny. But it definitely means something. I don't know, but it's
it's that whole thing of should you be playing to the back of the room? Like, everybody does, but should you be?
You shouldn't be playing to the back of the room, but...
They're not paying you. They're not the ones that are going to come to your show. Like, they're your friends that are like, that bit was funny or that bit was whatever.
No, beyond friendship, it's like, it's pretty rough getting off stage and all the comedians avoid eye contact with you and, like, treat you like radioactive waste. Like, they're going to catch your disease.
I've never experienced that before.
You've never experienced that? You've never experienced tanking on stage and even your closest friends don't want to come near you after you.
No, I know. You straight up feel like you have a sting.
But you do. People are afraid of catching it. They don't want to come near you.
So amazed by people where they will die in the ass and it'll be rough, like rough as when I die, I'm like, I'm out, or I'm getting really drunk.
And they stick around.
But they hang out confidently and they're like, wasn't so bad. How are you? And you're like,
dude.
What do you mean it wasn't so bad? Like, I'm bummed out. There's a room runner in Sydney, Reece Jones, and he's so funny. People hate it when he's really direct, but I love it because if you do well, he'll be like, oh, that was like, you've done so well, like you've improved so much, that was awesome. And if you do shit, he'll be like, oh man, you really stunk up my night. But at least you know where you stand.
No, but that's not shit.
I love it.
I think that's kinder than the alternative. I mean, I know people, a lot of people in this scene think I'm a bit of an asshole because I'm not shy in telling someone that they sucked when they sucked. But to me, is that meaner than walking up to them going, mate, that was so awesome?
Oh, yeah, no, there's nothing worse.
Because to me, the most discombobulating, disconcerting thing is walking off stage and knowing that I didn't really do well and people saying, that was great. And it's like, man, don't tell me that was great. I know it wasn't. You know it wasn't. And now when you tell me I did great, when I did do great, I don't know if I can believe it.
But do you need them to tell you?
I don't need them to tell me.
Like, I feel like every time I've felt like I've done well, I don't really care what people say. Like, if I value very, like, a couple of people's opinions, people I respect who I think are really, really funny. But it doesn't mean I, like, hate what other people have to say. But if I feel like I've done well and then I go off stage and, like, some shitty, insecure, like, you know, pin dick comic is like, oh, I've seen you do, like, that bit better, and you can see straight through what they're doing. I don't really care what they say. Like, I'm like, that went well.
That's different. That's different. Like,
yeah, but I get a lot of that kind of stuff. Well, not so much now because I think people are scared. But when I started, I used to get heaps of that stuff where guys would be like, "Oh, I can like help you," and I was like, "But you're not
I'll help you
funny.
craft that joke if you like."
Yeah, and
How about we meet up for a couple of beers and I'll help you write your act.
I couldn't even like. It stopped now because if they'd start the sentence, I would literally just be like, "Oh, I gotta go." So I was like, I can't engage in this. You're not funny. You're gonna make me less funny talking to you. Do you know what I mean?
You've got resting. I fucking hate you face. You know. So
it's not that bad.
It's pretty bad. But do you guys get this thing where like I'm never shyer than when I've done really well?
Oh
no. Like, you know what I mean? Do you get that?
You did not do that.
No, it's true. I feel like really kind of like if I like kill and I walk off stage, I feel kind of almost more self-conscious than if I died. Because if you die, you kind of go into this weird kind of justification mode where you're like, oh, yeah, fucking, oh, it was their fault or I was a bit off or blah, blah, blah. But if you kill, it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to do
I've
when
got
someone
heaps
comes.
of confidence.
Yeah,
Really?
I try and enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I'm like, oh, someone come ask me for advice.
I'm just going to stand by the bar as the audience files out and hopefully someone hot will fucking come and talk to me.
Yeah, that's me.
I always feel a bit bashful after it. Like,
No,
it was
I
almost like,
enjoy it.
oh, I kind of made a big spectacle of myself and now I feel a bit, you know.
What, you feel like naked?
Oh,
like,
now I'm
raw.
going to think that.
Yeah.
I made a spectacle of
No.
myself.
No, that's how I feel. And then, like, you know, people will be like, oh, that was really good. And you're like, oh, thanks.
No, I sit in it and enjoy it
know
because
what
I
to
feel
do
like,
with that.
why else are you doing it? Like, if I have fun and I've done well and someone will say, like, oh, that was good, I'll be like, yeah, thanks. And I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy the feeling.
Yeah.
Because it's usually quite fleeting, so you want to indulge in it while it lasts.
And yeah, sometimes I don't feel like unless someone says that was a good set, I feel like I failed.
Oh, really?
So
Is that fucking dumb? That's so fucking
no, it's
dumb.
not, don't
It's
beat
not
yourself
dumb.
up. You're just going through different stages of shit. But I think you've eventually got to get to a stage. Well, I don't know. I don't think there's any final stage. It's like anything in life. Like you level up and then you fucking need to level up again after that. But I think ultimately when I felt freest on stage was when I stopped needing the approval of the crowd necessarily. Like there's gigs I've done where I've killed and I've walked off stage feeling dead inside because it was just like, I felt like a ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah.
And then there's gigs I've done that weren't, you know, it wasn't a huge reaction from the audience, but I felt in control.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was a success.
Yeah.
I know
Well, I'm
what you
starting
mean,
to have
though.
more of them now, maybe. I'm
I know-
starting to have more of them now, yeah.
I know what you mean though, Sean, because it's like that feeling where you feel like you did really, really well, and then you're like, oh, am I a bit delusional because no one's said that was better or good or whatever. But yeah, I that goes in waves for me, where sometimes if I try a new bit and I'm like, that felt good.
Yeah.
But then if someone doesn't say it, you're like, oh, I don't know. But I wouldn't take like I wouldn't trust a lot of people's opinions in comedy because, like, I mean, audience members are different. If
I wouldn't
audience
even
members
trust
come
an
up to you,
audience
it's great.
member. They're fucking idiots.
No, but you can still indulge in it and enjoy it if someone's like, hey, that made me laugh, because that's what you're fucking there for.
It depends on what kind of laugh that you gave them. If it was just like that was a funny joke, it's like, yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah.
But
No,
if it's
I'm saying,
you just said something that I thought that I only felt, like that to me is a great
Well, I'm
compliment.
talking in like regards to what Sean said, where it's like unless somebody says something to you, you don't feel legitimized or whatever. But it's like if you do the set and then someone comes up to you and goes, that was really funny, you can enjoy it. Just they don't have to fucking analyze why they're not comics.
Yeah.
They're not going to be like, I found that funny, Sean, because you
Well,
reflected
it's
on a
not
time
an
in my
audience
life.
member. It like has to be like a comedian.
No, I
So, like, it won't-
trust.
Oh,
so
you
few
want a
people.
comedian to tell you you're funny? Is that
Yeah.
what it is? Oh, right.
No.
So, like, it's like every comic is like mum and dad telling you that you're a good girl.
How fucking dumb
no.
is-
Dude, you're just being honest about it because that's what everyone's fucking like. You know, it's like this. You don't think that. You don't think
I think
everyone
I
in comedy
learned
wants
really,
the approval of their peers.
I learned,
Come on.
Yeah.
of course they do, but I learned really, really early on. I don't take a lot of people's advice in comedy. I take very few people's advice, not because of, partly because of stuff that's happened in the past, but also because there's been like lots of really disgusting predatory dudes that are like, that was really funny, I can help. And when you start, you're like, oh, cool.
But
And
it's
if you
like-
admire them, it can be really tricky grounds to sort of, I don't know. I trust very few people.
But it's like I don't want their advice. I just want them to admire me.
I just want my praise.
Yeah, I just want praise. I don't want to take any of their fucking dumb advice.
I just
I've
want
probably got
them-
better jokes than them. I
But
just
it must-
want
me.
It must suck, especially like, starting out, because it's like, as a female, because it's like there's so many times I've seen like, some dude who just gets ignored by everyone, and then some new woman will come into comedy and she's, as funny or maybe less funny than that person, and all of a sudden there's this flock of like open mic fuckboys like, oh, you're really funny. That's awesome. And it's like, do you think she's funny or are you just trying to fucking get laid? I don't know.
Yeah.
And that, I think that,
Bit of column A and B.
is that not discombobulating?
Yeah, it's fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard this chick once who's like dating a friend of ours and they're in this open relationship thing, which is always a huge success. And she said something to the effect
Fucking
of,
hell.
I don't know which open micer I'm going to fuck next. And I was like, fucking aim higher, woman. Like,
Gross.
talk about scraping the filth at the bottom
Open
of the
micer.
barrel
I am
underneath
so
the filth.
happy I've only fucked like one comedian.
Oh,
honestly.
man.
that your long-term
dating one,
boyfriend?
so-
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's lovely.
See, they work. Sean's dating one too.
I haven't slept with anyone in comedy.
I have.
I'm so happy.
And I
that got
haven't
in a
regretted any of it. It's all been great.
She says as she stares despondently at the ground and opens up her own wrist. Should we get to the hat?
Yeah, let's
Oh,
do that.
let's do the hat.
All right. So, Sian Smyth. Is it Smith or Smyth?
Smith.
I didn't know how to bring
Smyth.
you. I didn't know how to bring you. There's an E on the end.
Smith.
No, there's not.
Isn't there?
No.
Oh, when I brought you on stage the other day, the list they gave me, it had an E on the end
How
of
do
your
you
name.
fuck up the word Smith?
I don't know. I had to ask the promoter. I'm like, is it Smyth or
Jesus.
Smith? And he goes, Smith with an E. There's no E? Oh, okay.
It's Smith with a Y.
Sian Smith. Pick a word. Let's see what you get. What is it?
Hope.
Just the way you read the word hope
I know. You're like, oh.
basically indicates your feelings on hope. Do you have hope?
I'm scared to have hope, hey?
Yeah, I
That's
relate to that.
Like, I fucking don't want to have hope.
Why? Because
In
you're
what- in
afraid of
what?
getting hurt?
Yeah, because I don't want to get hurt. And, like, if you have hope, then you get more hurt.
In
right?
every aspect of life?
When
No, I
it
relate to
fails.
this. No, I relate to that. Big time.
Yeah, you definitely.
Big time.
In every aspect, like in terms of relationships and jobs and comedy, or just like specifically comedy?
Oh, like
or
comedy.
Comedy
Yeah.
specifically?
Sorry, I was talking about comedy. Yeah,
But-
but even in general.
Oh, no, because
even
like,
in general.
well, I mean, Ben and I have talked about like being scared to have hope in the beginning of a relationship, or like if you go on a date with someone
yeah,
and you're
actually
like,
that too.
Yeah,
in comedy,
yeah.
and just in general life, you don't like maybe like I hope like that like I don't like die of cancer.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we all hope that.
But,
Pretty
like-
legitimate hope.
I can see how you got there, yeah.
But like other hope, like I hope my career goes well, or I hope this, or I
But
hope
so
this happens.
when you first read it, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but when you read it, it seems like it was like a challenging concept for you. Like you were like, hope.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, but your entire body language like slumped when you read the word. The word is hope, not genocide.
Like it seems like it struck me as if it was like a really challenging concept for you.
yeah. Because I'm just scared of hope and scared of like positivity.
No,
That's
I
so
agree.
interesting.
I'm going through a thing at the moment where I'm not fully surrendered to despair, but it feels I feel like I'm at the bottom of a giant pit of despair.
Yeah.
And I don't mean personal despair. I mean in terms of just living on planet Earth in
Yeah.
2018
He keeps
is
talking about the
really
apocalypse.
intense. Well, not just
know.
I don't mean when I talk about the
You told me as well.
But when I talk about the apocalypse, I don't mean like fucking, mushroom clouds going off in every city. I'm talking
Yeah.
about a slow motion just slide into
Well, into
the
lack
collapse
of
of society.
and the removal of hope.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And you can
Yeah.
see this all around the world. It feels like there is
Yeah.
a real lack of hope in terms of how people are. I don't think that people have hope for the future.
But do you think this is a reflection of your mental state? Hear me out. Because, like, if I'm depressed or anxious, I'm like, there is no hope. Everything is screwed. Why don't we burn it down now? And then when I'm feeling mentally a lot more stable or, like, healthy or whatever, I'm like, there is hope and there is signs of hope. When you look, you see people trying to change things and you see shifts happening. And
Yeah.
there's always been a yin, a yang, or like a whatever you want to call it, a swing in terms of society and how we've done things. And there is room to swing the other way and
Yeah.
for people to change. And
There is.
And these
But, like,
conversations
yeah.
are happening more and more and more with people. Like you go out to dinner and people talk about global warming,
But
or they
don't you
talk
reckon,
about
like-
choosing to not have children or whatever. Anyway.
But don't you reckon like the pain, like when you have hope and then like, it turns out that like you shouldn't have had that hope or whatever, like you shouldn't have thought that positively about it. Like that hurts more than like anything.
That's right. That's right. They say that about people. Like if those people that are always expecting the worst. They're actually the people that are the most equipped to handle
Yeah.
a situation when everything turns to shit.
Well, we've talked about this
Because
where
it's
it's like,
you've rehearsed it in your fucking head 500 times.
well, the pessimist is the
Disappointed optimist.
disappointed optimist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's what you said with Michael Hing, hey?
yeah. Well, it's like
Yeah.
it's
No,
that
but
whole-
I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's that whole thing where it's like you want something so much and you have so much hope for it that you're debating, I guess, feeling that way in your head. Whereas if you feel indifferent, you've got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But
But it's quite an immature. And that's
It's not
something-
immature.
I reckon it is.
It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, I know, but I think it's an immature. I'm talking about myself
Yeah.
now, because when I trace it back, when I look at myself, I'm like, when did you stop doing that? And it was somewhere in high school, whatever. I would fall in love with someone in my grade, and then I would spend the entire year,
Yeah.
as I was falling asleep in bed, like playing it out in my head of how it was going to go, and
Yeah.
it's going to be like this, and it's going to be like that, and then inevitably it would never be like that.
Yeah,
And it
exactly.
was like soul crushing. And I remember sometime around maybe 15 or 16, suddenly catching myself and being
Yeah.
like, don't do this what if game. Stop playing this like predictive, this is how
Yeah.
it's all going to unfold, because it is only leading to just intense heartache. It
Yeah.
hurts. And so when I say it's immature, I feel like I don't know that I've gotten over that part of my psyche that's like, don't ever love anything because it'll
Yeah.
just hurt you or leave you.
yeah, it's a coping mechanism.
Yeah, but it's an image. I think it's an immature coping. I think it's braver to be hopeful, and I think it's braver to go into stuff with an open heart.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like I don't know. It's naive. Maybe it's not brave. Maybe it's just stupid and naive.
I went the other way.
I don't know. Like, it's cool to think of it as brave. Like if I can think of having hope as being brave, then maybe I can have more hope.
But I don't think you have a choice. I think you're either inclined that way or you're not.
Yeah.
And when I see hopeful people, a lot of the time I just see like a big dummy. It's like, oh, really? Like, are your eyes not open? Are you not
Yeah.
looking around? It's like pretty fucking rough out there.
I
Yeah.
think, for all my waffling about romanticism and stuff, I'm pretty level about things. So, like, I'll have hope for something, but it's all so stemmed in logic that it's like if I get a great gig and I'm so excited to do it, I'll have in the back of my head, like, oh, it might
Yeah.
not happen. And then that anxiety is there. But then I'll also have the thing of like, oh, well, if it doesn't, it's really just because this and this and this happened. Like it's not as built up in a way.
But do you think that that's just through
Right.
age and getting used to disappointment?
Yeah.
No, because I was the opposite when I was younger. That's what I was going to say when you were talking about it. I don't know if I had like a mild depression growing
Yeah.
up because of my different upbringing, because it was a bit of a chaotic household. But
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with that feeling of like, oh, daisies and roses and everything's great. I didn't have that. So I developed that later. At
Yeah.
like 17, 18, I started... So I feel like I switched on then and I was like, oh, I
Yeah.
can hope for this and then it can happen. And a lot of stuff that I've... Like, it's going to sound so arrogant because there's heaps of shit I want that
Yeah.
I'm never going to get or achieve. But
Yeah.
a lot of things that I hoped for, that I was like, I want to do that, I'm stubborn enough that I pursued it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whereas, like, before I was, like, late teens, early 20s,
Yeah.
I wasn't really going for that. Like, I wasn't like, oh, if I date a boy, that didn't even occur to me. Like, I was like, well, I won't date a boy because I'm disgusting and no one will ever find me
Yeah.
attractive. Like, I started
yes,
there
yes.
and then went the other
Oh,
way.
see, I started with hope.
Yeah, I
and then
didn't.
it was dismantled. So, like,
Yeah.
I went the other way.
And then it was dismantled. And then reality dismantled my hope.
Chipped it away.
Yeah.
and like, yeah, because like I couldn't like read or write like all through school, and I still pretty much can't
Why? What?
read or write. I
what's
just
that
got
about?
severe dyslexia
Yeah,
and
right.
ADHD, and
It was just a massive challenge.
it was just like a massive challenge. But I would try so hard in like absolutely everything I did in like all my classes, but I was still like the biggest retard in the retard class. Like that was just the reality. Like I was in like the dumbest class in a public school in a small country town.
Yeah.
Like this, and the girl who sat next to me in class used to shove pencils up her vagina and masturbate. And she got better fucking marks than me. Like, do you know how bad and crumbling that is for your self-esteem?
course,
You're
of
like, no,
course.
actually, I am a fucking dumb piece of shit. Of course.
And the way the education system is structured is like you are an intelligent person, you know, despite whatever reading and writing issues. Like you're obviously an intelligent person.
Yeah,
but the
but
way
it-
the education system is set up, it can't acknowledge different
There's no
kind
room.
of genres of intelligence.
There's
Yeah.
no room or money.
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar thing in high. I mean, I could read and write. I'm not a fucking total.
Fucking retard.
But you know, like I had, I probably had ADHD. I couldn't fucking sit still and concentrate. You know, but you know, it was a public high school in the 1990s, and there was
Yeah.
no kind of avenue for whatever my bent was. I'm not
There's
saying
still
stop.
no avenue for
No,
a
there
lot of
isn't.
those kids.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
For kids who just have a challenge to learning that's not even that extreme, there's just not any money or room for them.
Yeah.
No.
And
Not
that's
enough
why
money in education.
I was so lucky when I got to get that scholarship and go to McDonald College.
Yeah, we both went to
Yeah,
a
because we
performing arts
both
school.
went to the same school.
That school saved me as well,
That
by the
school
way.
I feel like
saved
that
me.
shit
I
would've
would not be.
saved me.
I'd
It saved
I'd
me.
have
Yeah.
I'd have a fucking child right now
Yeah,
to a fucking like
feral.
dickhead ice junkie. Like if
Yeah.
I'd fucking
Stay
not
where you
gotten
were.
into that, if I had not gotten into that school, like that school like changed my life in
Same. It's
so many
interesting.
ways.
Yeah, it changed mine because before that I was in an all-girls Catholic school, which was massive, and I was not coping.
Gross.
I was like a shell. And then I went there and I was like, it's the same well, and this is going to sound so wanky, but that school for me was
Yeah.
the same feeling as when you start stand-up, where you're like, oh, this is my people.
Yeah.
Like it just kind
Yeah.
of fit and it made sense.
And I still failed miserably in all my classes, and I was still like the dumbest kid there.
But
But
you weren't the only one.
yeah, but I was happy, I guess, and
Yeah,
I was
I was happy
learning,
there.
and I still felt like there was sides of my creative brain that were really being like embraced and
Did you guys
nurtured
stifle
and
your true personality before you went to that
school. I didn't know who I was. That's what I mean. Like I was like switched off, like pretty emotionally. I think switched off
What,
before
from
I
like
went
trauma
there.
of
Just
your
like
household
stuff
and
that,
that
was
shit?
happening. Yeah. I think
right.
so. I was just like very switched off, and I remember still my mum taking me to school, and my mum's amazing, but she must have known I was like depressed, and she had 5 kids, so that's kind of
Yeah.
hard to be in touch with one of them that clearly. But I remember her dropping me off and being like, "Hey, next year do you want to go to that other school?" And I was like, "Yep," and she was like,
wouldn't that have
"Okay,
been
cool."
great?
Like she just knew
I
straight
was
away.
so
Like she
happy
was
when I
just
found
like,
out I was
she's like, "Yeah," because she's not okay. And immediately it just like
What
made
were you
friends
doing that was
and-
making you not okay? Like,
Oh, it
what
wasn't
were you
anything
doing?
I was doing. It was just a bit of a turbulent household.
I don't know if you've seen Jennifer's face, but she has a face that can't lie.
It was a turbulent household that involved like a lot of things, but I don't want to talk about it because it involves lots of other family members and stuff, and you shouldn't talk about their shit. But there was a lot of stuff going on, and I think I was just really. I mean, my older sister Monica and I always talk about it. She was like, because she's a dancer and she's a dance teacher now, but she said like when she thinks back, all the teachers are always like, "You're so limited because you emotionally won't let go when you dance." And we were both like, and it's like such a heavy thing to say, and we were talking about it, but it's true, even as a child.
It's true in any art.
And I was definitely like that. Like until I changed schools, I was just switched off. So I was just kind of quiet and kind of like, you know.
No, I was a spastic. Like my best friend when I was growing up was this girl, and she was absolutely out of her fucking mind. And she used to just she used to like she was absolutely out of her fucking mind. Like this isn't like cute crazy.
No,
This
she
is,
was crazy.
Like she used to like get vacuum cleaners and then like put them on like cats' asses and like shove their guts out of them.
That's like Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman type shit.
That is
fucked
evil.
up.
That is evil.
And it was fucked up, and this was a girl I was spending like heaps of time with, but she
Was
like
this in a small
protected
town?
me.
I don't know why that makes it funnier.
I think that's the thing that I would freak out the most about if I was a parent. Is like, what other fucking kids are like molding the consciousness of my kid when I'm, at school or whatever.
But no one has as much of an impact as parents, I think.
No, but
primary
you can be led
caregivers.
astray by a fucking wayward friend.
Totally, yeah.
Especially in high school.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're trying to impress people, especially as a young, dumb boy, fucking no.
Yeah, you can end up with a friend who's vacuuming cats'
Cats
asses.
assholes out there.
And I'm like, this is fine.
Well, as a kid, of course, because you don't know any better. Well, you do know better, but it's like
we were all scared. I remember us all being scared, but like we just like were like, okay.
See, but how old were you at that time?
Like 14.
But that's the thing, even at that age, you're like, we're afraid, and there's more of us that are scared than not, but we're not saying shit. Because the scary one is the one with the vacuum cleaner.
When you were a kid, say 14 years old, did you have a hope for the future? Like when you when you projected yourself at, who will I be or what will I be?
I used to want to be a heroin addict because I thought that was really cool.
Oh my God.
Because I saw like...
I watched Requiem for a Dream and it just felt like, that's the life for me.
Yeah, I saw like Train Spotting. I watched that movie Candy and like
Oh, yeah,
she
I
had like a
remember
really
Candy.
hot boyfriend because she was a heroin addict.
Isn't it so funny how all these like anti-drug movies, when you watch them as a teenager, they see like Train Spotting is not a pro-heroin movie.
No.
Same as Requiem for a Dream, but a friend of mine saw Requiem for a Dream and he's like, every time I watch it, I just want to do drugs.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
dude.
but I think that's sparking off like a self-destructive streak of like I want to destroy
like,
myself.
Burn it down.
There used to be this movie called 13 and they like cut themselves in it. And then like me and my friend just used to like cut ourselves together because like we saw it in the movie.
And because
we
it
thought
seems so
cool.
hardcore. Oh my
We'd be
God.
like, that's so cool.
So is that are you like joking or are you actually being serious?
being
You wanted to be a
serious.
heroin addict when you grew up?
Yeah, I did. I thought that would be cool.
Yeah, right. So
That's like the
no
truth.
hope for the future then.
No, but that was my hope. I was like, no, it'd be cool. I'll be like
'Cause it'd be-
Candy from that movie. I'll be like Abby Cornish.
Because it would be like romantic and fun and like burn everything down.
Yeah.
And... Okay, I didn't have that.
Did you have hope though?
Yeah, when I was older, I was excited about stuff. I felt like I switched on as a late teen and I was like, oh, I want to do heaps of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I wanted to travel and like see things and do things.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, like I remember when my first boyfriend and I broke up, like we were together 4 years, we were like high school sweethearts and met him at that school. And I remember even when we broke up, like being sad, but also being like, oh, this is part of being alive too, is
This
you
is
break up with your first love and then
This
you
is
get
the
to
chapter in my autobiography where I break my heart for the first time.
to do all these other things. And, you know, and my mum's like so Hungarian, like a week later, she was like, oh, you're going to be like bummed out for ages. Like she was like, snap out of it, you know? And I just remember even like indulging in all of that, like being like, oh, this is what it's about. Like,
Wow, that's cool that you were able to do that. I just wanted to die when I first had my first
Really?
breakup.
I was so indulgent.
yeah,
like
I
I was
was-
like, I'm going to watch movies and like get drunk and like, you know, I was like into it.
I was done.
So
I was catatonic.
When you broke up with your first love.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was complicated and messy. So.
But was there a part of you that was like, this is what happens with your first love? Because I felt like that was there for me.
Yeah, no, it was. But I mean, I'm also whatever mood I'm in is the mood that I will be in for the rest of time, which is why I'm so dramatic.
It's hard to see around the corner.
Yeah, like when I'm sad, it's like, well, I guess I'm just going to be sad for the rest of time now. And it's the same when I'm feeling really good about myself.
Totally, yeah.
I forget that, tomorrow is another day or whatever. So with heartbreak, it's like, I'll never get over this. So there's no part of me that likes it. And I think that's the other thing, it's like actively, tied back into hope is like, you fear that heartache so much that it becomes...
Yeah.
Like you say it's a defense mechanism, Jen, but I would say...
Oh, I mean, I'm similar. Or a coping mechanism in the sense that it's like, I'm preparing myself in case this doesn't happen.
But don't you... Yeah. I guess what I'm worried about is moving forward in my life, I feel like, your 30s is really the time to get your fucking shelf in order.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of people, acquaintances, friends and stuff who are... maybe, going to their mid-40s or something and they haven't dealt with
their
stuff. And it's like, it's like this ever-filling up colostomy bag. It's just filling up with more and more shit. And eventually it's going to explode and there's going to be shit everywhere and we're all going to be covered in it.
But is it though? Or are they just going to carry on?
No, there's a certain type of person that can just carry on and just go, whatever, and then whatever, and their deathbed it all fucking hits them in the face. And then there's people where you can see they've got like tics and stuff because it's like they're trying to keep it all fucking in. But it's like the shelf's getting really heavy and it's about to collapse under the weight of all the shit that I haven't dealt with. And I guess, and within that kind of idea, I worry about myself and this kind of like reflexive cutting off of hope or all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, taken to its logical conclusion, that ends in you being like a really cold, bitter, sour, angry old fuck.
Yeah.
I don't
well, thank God you avoided that.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I kind of hate that, I hate that part of me is so heavy and dominant because I don't feel like I'm like that all the time. The stuff that I love as passionately as the stuff that I hate. But it is very oppressive. I understand I have an oppressive personality when I'm in an anxious, bad place. Yeah. Which is why a lot of the time when I'm in that place, I don't go out.
I think a lot of people are, and it's more mature for you to acknowledge it because when people are depressed, whether they admit it or not, it shits on everyone around them. Like if every time I've had a friend that's in a fucking hole, I've very rarely left feeling better for hanging out with them. And that's why I do the same thing. If I'm depressed or anxious or something, I'll be like, I'm just going to chill at home because
this shouldn't be everyone else's problem.
No one is walking, I've talked about this with people before, no one is walking around life above the bar of average. Like no one is walking around like, I'm just filled with hope and love, unless they're on drugs or super religious. So most people are like getting by, feeling good about little things. And then when you meet someone who's in a friggin' hole, it's so impossible for them to not drag you down,
But it's fucked up. It's so hard because it's like, when you're in that hole, it's like you're in a pit and the walls are literally just made of liquid shit and you can't
see out of it.
Get out of it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it's this act of just literally clawing your way out like inch by inch. And sometimes it's like that pit in the fucking, the Dark Knight Rises.
Like, But like when like you're depressed or whatever or feeling anxious, but like a lot of the time like you are like you feel like you are right like about a lot of what your depressive thoughts are. Like that life is meaningless and that you're going to die. Like, all that sort of stuff. A lot of the time you're right about it. Like if you could break up with someone one day and they're the love of your life and you're never going to love someone like that ever again. You've just lost them.
Yep.
And that is a reason, like, and there's like, that happens all the time. And like, how do you know when you break up with someone that person who wasn't the love of your life and you're never going to meet anyone like that again? You're just going to be miserable for the rest of your life. Because that happens heaps.
That's when hope comes in. Hope is like a very brave emotion. Like you have to be very, very strong and brave to feel.
And see, I feel like within the history of my family and everything that they went through, I feel like I'm almost like, how dare you succumb to despair? Yeah. When your family literally survived the apocalypse. Yeah. And they got through the other side and they built a new life for themselves and they died at a very old age in their beds. Who are you to be living in like the peak of civilization with everything you want, you're healthy, you've got great friends,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
and
mean,
yet
like-
every day it's like staring into the middle distance, imagining
Yeah.
this fucking, oceans rising and millions of
But we don't know what
economic
it'd be like
refugees
if you are in that situation.
Yeah,
like
well,
maybe
that's-
your hope is different, your brain is different when you're
I
in
almost
a
feel like-
detention center.
I mean, I would probably I would probably just crumble. But I almost feel like, given a fucking awful situation, I think that's when I would like click-clack into some kind of like, right, let's...
You'd have purpose.
Pragmatic.
Your purpose would be to stay alive, whereas now you're just
Possibly.
gliding. Maybe that's what it is.
But like sometimes like yeah, and
Yeah,
that like
that's
what
true.
and
That's
I'm so scared of like just like fucking up your life for good. Like there's
I think
like
that's
you can
way
fuck up your
harder.
life for good in like a second though.
No, I agree with that.
I think
agree
it's
with
way
that.
harder
Like, what
to
if you
fuck
accidentally
up
kill
your
someone?
entire
Yeah.
life.
No, I agree. I agree
Yeah, but
with
how
Sam.
do you accidentally kill someone?
Driving?
Driving.
I mean, that's why I don't
Or, like,
I
what
don't
if you don't
drive?
Driving would be too stressful for me. I don't
Yeah,
have a
I
license.
don't want to drive because I don't
No,
want to
neither do
kill
I.
someone.
I'm the same.
Oh my god. Okay, you both
I know,
don't
I'd
need
never
to
No,
drive.
recover.
but this is how it is for me. It's like my, like and like I feel like I have I don't know if it's a hope deficiency or if it's just a brain that is geared towards catastrophizing.
Yeah.
But everything. I think I said it last week. If the phone rings after 10 o'clock,
Yeah,
someone is
something's
dead.
wrong.
Someone is dead.
Yeah.
Something terrible has happened. It's never. And I don't know if that's just like, an immature little boy brain kind
Yeah.
of like going, oh, you'll never be hurt if you always expect bad things to
Yeah.
happen. But the reality is,
Well, it's like I can't handle to hate myself anymore. Like, you
it's
just-
exhausting.
Yeah.
And it's just another form of fucking self-obsession. It's another
Yeah.
form of narcissism. I'm the worst is as narcissistic as I'm the best. It's probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
It's a normal person.
I don't know. With the like anxiety and the like logic, like I mean, if you both learnt to drive, the chances of you killing somebody the first time you learnt to drive is pretty slim. But I do understand where you're coming from. But that like insane feelings where you're like, where does this come from? For one, a lot of trauma happens in vitro, like when you're being created, if your parents are going through a traumatic thing or the trauma is carried through generations, we know this. And there's a lot of anxiety from your family, Ben, and mine as well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean, like I'm trying to do that thing where you just go with it. Like the other night, I couldn't contact my mother. I had a fucking heart attack. I was like, oh my God, something's happened to my mum. I called my sisters and no one could contact. And then like an hour later, my brother's like, yeah, she's at Pilates
Yeah,
and her
of course.
phone's
It's always
off.
that
And
way.
I'm
Oh, that's what.
Of course she's at Pilates.
Of course.
And like I knew logically it was
Yeah.
okay, but in that moment, I was like, it was just this loop of like, oh my God, if something's happened to my mum and I'm not there, I'm the worst person in the world.
Totally.
It's
Oh, absolutely.
I have that so bad, like, because my dad like randomly disappeared when I was younger. When I was like,
no, it's like Ben's dad.
For good?
for good, yeah,
Yeah,
he just
right, yeah.
disappeared. But then he like contacted us, like, and then he died. Anyway, like, you know, because he just like randomly disappeared and like that day, like he didn't pick up his phone and he didn't answer. Like I've got so much anxiety about that because it was like, no, that was confirmed.
Of course.
This has actually happened. This happens.
I have weird
And-
anxiety from shit like that too. We all do.
And I'm just like, and I'm so convinced, like, yeah, the minute my mum doesn't answer her phone, I'm like, she's dead. She's
Yeah,
dead.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
gone.
yeah.
Gone.
She's gone. Zach's dead. Like,
Yeah,
when if
yeah.
my boyfriend doesn't answer his phone, I'm like, he's dead.
Yeah, no, I've got exactly the same thing, and it's like, and I guess that's what I mean before when I said like that immature reaction, because it's like, on one hand you could say, oh, it's your brain kind of preparing
Yeah.
you for because inevitably one
Yeah.
day the phone will ring and it will be something bad.
Yeah.
It will be. That's on a long enough time scale, of course, but 99.9% of the time it's not. So it's like, well, you're
Yeah.
punishing yourself, you know. Not just mentally, but God knows, like all the fucking stress hormones and the,
Yeah.
you know, all of that stuff flooding your body.
Yeah.
It can't be good.
But it's all from learnt experience. Like,
But it's
like
really
what you're
not,
saying,
because-
Sean. No, but it is. Like Sean's experience of her dad going is what
Yeah.
has I understand like that. It's like, well, it's not logical to assume that Zach is going to just disappear. But that's your animal brain is kicked in when
Yeah.
you're experiencing trauma. So for you, if you've called someone you care about, that trauma brain has come back and that lived experience has come
Yeah.
back, and you're like, oh. Like, I have exactly the same thing. We've talked about it, Ben, where you have similar stuff. Where, like, for me, my dad had walked out later in our lives, and I always, like, joke about
Yeah.
how it's like people say it's bad when they live when you're born,
Yeah.
but it's even worse when they get to know you and
Yeah.
decide they hate you.
I agree. I think it's
Like-
much worse.
But so I have that thing where it's like, oh, no matter how much I love or care about someone and how much I think they care about me, they could
Yeah.
just fuck off. Like, I've had to
Yeah,
talk
it
about
does.
it with my partner all the time, where he's like, why would I just not talk to you again? And I'm like, because it's happened. And it's like, and to them, they haven't lived that. Like, Zach obviously hasn't lived what you have. So you're going through life with close friends or partners, trying to explain to them this fucking weird trauma that you've gone through. And often you're not even aware of it. Like Ben and I were talking about when I always feel guilty about shit because of other stuff that's happened. Like, even with organising this, I thought Ben wanted to meet up later. And so I felt bad. So when I called him this morning and he was fine, I was like, oh.
It's always, exactly.
It's fine, you know, but you go through life carrying all this little weird shit and you just.
Yeah, but it's so useless. And, you know, it's like, like I'm finding that I am, and I don't know if I've always been like this. I suspect I kind of have, but always kind of like keeping most people in my life at something of an arm's length.
Yeah, but people that you're close with, you're mega close with. Yeah, but
I still feel like there's this part of me that, you know, and it's probably not a real part because it's, you know, I think it's like that, you know, that fucking stoic, like, I don't give a shit part of me. But, you know, there is a part of me that's like, everyone can just fuck off tomorrow and I don't care. You know, I'll be fine. All I need is me. That's all I need. I got it. I'm happy living in my own head.
You're such an only child.
But
I'm an only child.
Exactly. And I think it's an only child thing, but I also think it's this, like, as you said, you know, like, no, it has happened in the past. People can just disappear. And, you know, it's also an acceptance of the transitory nature of most relationships that you ever have in your life.
Yeah.
Like, most people you ever know.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone you ever know, if you live to 100, is going to leave eventually one way or another. But even beyond death, like 95% of people you meet in your life, you'll only know for the time that you know them. Yeah. Sometimes it's years, sometimes it's weeks. Sometimes you can want to be best friends with someone, but it just for some reason, whatever reason, it just doesn't work that way. And you both love, and you both really like each other, but you just never get time to hang out, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think there's an acceptance of that. But I don't know, like it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately in the last few months. This kind of hair trigger thing in me that keeps people at bay, or and I am starting to think that it's an immature thing. Yeah, that lack of hope or that lack of I don't know,
or just being too neurotic. I guess, is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't know, because it's like. It's again back to that thing I was saying before about getting older. That's what I worry. I don't worry so much about it now because I feel like for the most part I got a handle on it. But I worry unchecked. It could easily turn into just like this paranoid fucking, you know, sketched out motherfucker who's constantly looking over his shoulder. Dude, like it's just in my head. When I go to the cinema, the first thing I do before I sit down is where's the emergency exit? Like there's the emergency exit. In case shit goes down, go there. Yeah. You know, that's just the way my head works. Yeah. And it's so hard with memory because you think you remember the way you were, whatever, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but you don't really. You remember the story that you tell yourself about how you were. So I don't know if I've always been like this or not. Like just kind of always imagining worst case scenarios. I think I have.
I think you probably have.
I think I have.
I don't know, yeah.
But then I wonder why, because something, you know, how old were you when your dad disappeared?
7.
See, you were old enough to remember that, and that's a hugely.
Your brain is
maybe I was 9.
Yeah, but your brain
that's huge. That's huge. See,
together.
My dad, I think the last time I ever spoke to him was when I was 3.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like.
And then he showed up at a show.
Are you serious?
Let's not get into that. That's a whole story.
Man.
Yeah, it was rough. Yeah. Festival show. Holy shit. Front
God.
row.
Motherfucker.
Yeah. I wish I had the energy to tell the whole story, but I don't. Another podcast. Yeah, but I feel like that happened when I was 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like there's a profound memory of it or a memory of abandonment. And I felt, and growing up, and I don't think it was just a story I was telling myself, I really do believe that it didn't affect me consciously, at least. Because I felt intense closeness with my mum and intense closeness with my grandparents. Yeah. And I felt lucky that I had them. And especially as I got into teenage years and a lot of my friends' parents are splitting up. Yeah. I felt grateful. I kind of dodged a bullet. It happened before I can remember and not when I'm trying to do my HSC. So it makes me wonder why this. I understand why you, Sean, are a worst case scenario kind of person or expecting every phone call to be some doom and gloom thing.
Yeah.
Because you've had a precedent set early. That's fucking hardcore. I don't know why I have that.
Because just because you can't remember something doesn't mean it didn't have an effect on your psyche.
That's
if you were close with your dad and he was a primary caregiver and then he disappeared, it would have an effect on development.
It's true, isn't it? Oh, man.
Even if
I know, and
you
then,
have
like,
no memory
just like
of
anyone
it.
can have kids, and you can just so easily just
Isn't it
fuck them
fucked
up.
Oh man, and if you're an adult around kids, like you are a god. You have godlike powers to them because they can't understand that.
Yeah.
To them you're a psychic. You can predict the future. You can predict the past. You know everything, and it pains me how few adults realize. Like everything you say to a kid has weight, you know?
Well, I was thinking that when you were saying about you get older and you see people in their 40s with their shelf of shit that they're not dealing with. I think it's surprising as you get older because when I was younger, you look at people in their 40s and even if they don't look that great, or even in their 30s, whatever, at whatever age you are, you look a little bit ahead. And I would always think like, oh, they've got this. Like even if stuff isn't great, they've sorted this out. Like they've had to sort some things out, you know?
Yeah.
And then it's quite confronting when you get older and go, oh no, they haven't.
It's diminishment of hope or whatever. I don't know what the right word for it, but
I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's like when your hope slowly goes away because you're like as a child, you're like, oh, but things will, like I'll be able to handle all of this when I'm an adult.
One day
I'll be able to handle all of this, and then you get closer and closer to it, and you're like, I can't handle this.
Yeah, but now, see, I'm also someone who's really into like change and people changing and acknowledging that you change because I think it's a really good thing because it alleviates things like, oh, everything's going to be fucked all the time or, oh, I'm going to be this all the time or I'm going to be that all the time. If I spoke to myself when I was in my early 20s and thought I was going to be where I am now, just with stand-up even, I didn't talk to people for most of my upbringing until I was in my 20s. And now I do that and make, that's what I do.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm big into also looking back and being like, oh, holy shit, I didn't think I would be sitting here doing this. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
And that gives me hope in a way.
Yeah, I definitely didn't see myself sitting here when there was a girl like masturbating with pencils next to me.
No, but you've like, we don't know each other that well, but you, from just how I've observed you over the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's a creepy word to describe a friendship, but I know what Ben's trying to say. I've observed you.
Let's not turn it into that, please. I'm talking from an anthropological perspective. You seem to have. It's not fucking creepy. Fuck off. Are you creeped out, Sean?
No.
Then there you go, Jen. Shut the fuck up. You
I
can't be more offended than the person that the comment was directed at.
But keep going.
It's not fucking. Oh, God, I hate you.
Benny.
You seem to have become a completely different person. I don't know if that's just through increased confidence or what.
I think that's also like maturity, right? And increased confidence.
But it seemed pretty fucking dramatic, man. Like I remember one, it's like I saw you at the start of a week and you were like some husk. And then I saw you at the end of the week and you were like this fucking, on stage telling the audience they're a pack of fucking assholes. And, you don't give a shit what they, and it's like, what? That's fucking crazy.
Well,
like, that's
for me,
huge
it was
change.
the change was that when we would hang out after, we just wouldn't be able to talk.
Yeah.
And then one day we had like a crazy conversation. I was like, oh, Sean's real cool.
Yeah.
But like before that, we'd never been able to chat.
This sounds so crazy, but like my life changed like about a year ago when I finally like read my first book and I feel like I fed my brain for the first time. And it was like my brain was so like desperate for like knowledge and desperate to like, because I always wanted to read like so much and like I like just was so sad that I was never able to do that. And then my boyfriend Zach bought me like this like manga book, this like Japanese manga book, and it's written from the other side of the page and I was able to follow it way better and I was able to follow all the pictures.
Great. That's so interesting.
And after I read that, it changed my brain forever and I was able to write jokes. It was just Yamazaki. It was just about like it was just like a horror manga. It wasn't like about anything in particular. Yeah. But it's just like all like the things in my brain that I'd like missed because like I hadn't had a proper education because I'd missed out on so much. It's just like my brain came together after that. And it was just, and it sounds so crazy, but it was after that I was able to like understand like words more and understand like how sentences work more and how like a story works more. And then I was able to understand comedy and like feel calmer.
But that makes sense. You'd feel calmer because like, if things are less confusing, of course you're going to feel calmer. And you probably, I imagine, feel like more in control or I think I would as well.
It's a powerful thing when a piece of art, like a book or whatever, an album or something, somehow articulates or coalesces a whole bunch of thoughts you've had in your head, and it's like external confirmation. Like, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
Or this person making this thing that's really great. Obviously, I can relate to them on some level. So I'm not fucking insane.
Was that one of those moments?
And well, maybe it was because like I was like I don't want to sound like up myself, but like I was smarter than maybe what I was perceived like.
No, you
no,
probably 110% were much smarter than what they.
Yeah.
You know.
And wait, where was I going with it? Now I lost track. Fucking hell, I'm a dumb idiot.
Not to like bring it back to it, but because I'm staring at the word hope. Did it make you feel hopeful after you read the book? And you were like, holy shit.
Yeah.
They were all wrong or whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't even like they were all wrong. It's just like my brain felt fed. It was like, that was what I was getting to. It was like, I was smarter than what I was being perceived and like then the tasks that were given to me. And like, I just feel like my brain was so desperate for something like that. It was so desperate like to read and to like be challenged in some way, but I just wasn't able to challenge it. And
I think challenges are so important for people. And like striving to something is really important for people. Because then you can achieve. Yeah. Like, I mean...
But see, that's when that's where I have a problem with that, and that ties back into the hope thing.
Not achieve in the sense of like on paper achieve, just achieve in the sense that Sian read a book and felt good. And was like, I can fucking do this. Just like self-satisfaction.
But it changed my brain. It wasn't like it made me feel good. It was like it changed my brain. Like my brain was able to just like understand words.
No, I had a similar thing in my early 20s. I'd read a couple of things that literally restructured, and I felt it. I felt my brain just going, and like just reforming. Yeah. And all of a sudden it was like, there's this old crazy magician guy, Robert Anton Wilson, and he talks about like reality tunnels and how we all think that we're seeing reality, but we're not. We're just seeing it through our own very narrow tunnel. Yeah. And when you read stuff that kind of expands your brain, it expands your reality tunnel, and suddenly you're seeing, and I know that like I started getting into science in my 30s, and I have by no means like a deep scientific understanding. I've got like a base level, kind of, and it's mainly through metaphors and stuff. But it has definitely changed my entire view of reality. Like, when I look at the moon now, I look at the moon differently than when before I understood gravity or, orbiting or that kind of stuff. So, I don't know. Maybe I just need to read more hopeful stuff to expand that. You know, you know what I mean? Because I do feel like the lack of hope comes from a lack of imagination. Yeah. It comes from only seeing one outcome. Yeah. And the outcome being a bad outcome.
I'm reading a book at the moment. I mean, it's like romantic and ridiculous, but it's called Pachinko, and it's like based in Korea and Japan from 1910 to 1970, and it goes along. And when I read that, they like spent, I mean, it's not for everyone, but they spent like a page and a half talking about how important having white rice was. And this woman's daughter gets married, and she's like, they're poor as shit. And she's like, but white rice will bring them good luck. And you realize, like, I mean... Wow. Reading it, like it's fiction, but reading it, I'm like, people have lived this. Like people have been like, we can afford a potato for 3 days to stay alive. And I'm sitting there reading it with like chips and chocolate and coffee. Whoa, like it sort of shifts things in your brain a little bit where it's like, I'm fucking fine. You know, like I'm living in Sydney and I'm okay. Yeah. And people through history... people now, not even through history, most people now are not really okay. Yeah.
No, and I think that's... So it's I think that's a problem of the way we're wired as people, because I think human beings are fundamentally wired to be dissatisfied, right? Yeah. Like we'd still be living in fucking mud huts.
Yeah, it drives us.
We never would have moved out of the cave if we weren't dissatisfied. Yeah. And it's this constant leveling up of like you get something and then you want more and you want more and you want more. The problem is now we've got everything we could ever want. Yeah. Ever, but it's still not enough.
But don't you think it's interesting to see where it goes from here?
I have no, hope. I have no, exactly. I think it's the apocalypse. I really do.
Really asking.
I really do. I don't mean,
I don't think I've ever been with you and you haven't brought up the apocalypse at one point.
Every day.
I read too much about what's going on in the environment and it's terrifying. And when I talk about apocalypse, I don't talk about like, I don't mean like, we will destroy the world.
Yeah.
We won't
You
destroy
do
the world.
say that quite a lot.
Well, I think we will destroy ourselves. Absolutely. I think that we are a suicidal species that is addicted to self-destruction, and something in us as collectively hates ourselves, and we want to burn it down. You look at the way we behave. We are the only species that willingly does stuff that we know is bad, and we do it on a mass scale. Regardless, the thing that gives me hope within that is thinking in deep time and thinking about, every time you see a tree root tearing up a footpath, it's like, well, we can pave over all of this.
Oh, the Earth will be
the Earth
fine.
will be fine.
Yeah. The Earth will be fine.
I was reading this thing when the nuclear bomb, when the asteroid that hit that killed the dinosaurs, like all the sulfur went into the atmosphere, and for years it rained black glass on the surface of the Earth. Black glass like rained out of the clouds for years, and anything that was alive around that time would have been like, well, this is it's the fucking apocalypse.
Yeah.
Like the world is irradiated and it's raining black glass. Nothing, and whatever. A couple of 100,000 years later, it was fine. Everything was fine. And it just reset, and that gives me hope.
For the people, well, not the people, but whatever was living during the time there was glass falling out of the sky, like they would have never had hope because they would have just lived through that whole life. So there would have been no point in
But that's
having
the
hope.
thing, though. They keep going.
Everything just keeps going. Life just keeps going.
Yeah, this is what's amazing about, not necessarily hope, but just humans. You talk more than anyone I know, Ben, about the apocalypse, the world's being shit, everything's terrible. But you still have so much joy if you see a movie that you like, or if you have a good conversation with someone, or if you...
A good movie brings me so much joy.
Best.
A good movie, or like or like when you've read the manga, or like if you go on a holiday somewhere and it changes you. So it's like humans innately still have hope. Otherwise, we would not be continuing.
Of course.
Like,
I don't know. I'm not so hopeless. Like, I've wished I was dead before, but I've never wished I was dead so much that I would kill myself. As far as I'm concerned, life's too short. You'll be dead before you know it anyway. So you may as well just stick around and see how it all...
Yeah.
So obviously...
there is,
despite all the nihilism and despite all the, oh God, there is still a core of hope. Like if I'm walking down the street and I see a kid, I'm not thinking, you're fucking doomed. Like, it's not like that. It's like, no, like... You'll have a great...
That surprises me, though, that you don't see kids like that. I was like, really? You don't... I can imagine you doing that.
It's more just,
They're just
I don't
thinking
know.
in his head, being like, that kid's fucking doomed. His parents are so selfish to have him.
Yeah, of course. But there is a part that thinks that as well. There's still a part of me that feels like Sarah Connor at the playground, like, no! But,
so maybe it's just hope on a minor scale. Like,
no, I think like, what upsets me the most about where we're at right now is that the species has so much potential. We have so much fucking potential as a species, and it doesn't even feel like it would take that much shifting. It's just shifting away from a culture that we've created and back to a more kind of natural pace of living, and I think that would solve a lot of problems. I mean, I'm not saying I don't even know how to do it, but
And you don't think that's possible?
I don't think it's possible, no, because I think we've fucking all collected into the... We've created a Faustian bargain. I was reading this book, Sapiens. It's a great book about the... Have you read this?
No, but I've
great book. It's kind of about how we got to where we are as a species. And
it's interesting.
And this guy, one of his theories is, when we were... hunters and gatherers, we were wandering around, and sure, it was kind of a tooth and nail lifestyle, but you were free, and then the agricultural revolution came in, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, there's a whole lot of people collected together, and where's all the feces going to go? And suddenly the feces is leaking into the drinking supply, and we've all got dysentery, and oh my God, I've been in a field for 12 hours a day, and I've got lower back pain, and I never had that before, and now I'm fucking dying of a fuck disease, and blah, 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 on and on and on. But within 2 generations, it's like, well, this is just how it is now. We've got these benefits of grain, and we're building villages and cities, and all of a sudden, even if you want to go back, you can't, because that previous lifestyle is dead. This is how it is, and I think that's how it is now. And then you had the Industrial Revolution, and now you've got the Information Revolution, and I feel like this shit ain't going back in the bottle.
And we're not going to just burn it down and start fresh with everyone farming. But I do think that there's shifts happening, and we don't know what will happen. I find that unknown very interesting.
I find it interesting, but I have very little hope for it.
But I know the population thing, but population's on decline in a huge amount of countries.
Oh, please!
It is.
There's 7 billion fucking people, and everyone wants their piece of the
America's
pie.
lowest population, thingo since like the 40s.
Yeah.
Japan's not
Well, if I
replacing
lived in
themselves.
America, I
There's
wouldn't be
heaps
having
of
fucking
countries.
kids, that's for
I mean,
sure.
there's places like India and China where it's still going mental. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's to suggest that we have any idea what's going to happen is, to me, completely insane.
I'm not saying I have any idea, but if you look at historical precedent, it's not actually unusual for
but if you
societies
look
to
at-
collapse. It really isn't.
No.
It happens.
And
It's happened a
It
lot.
can collapse, but they also keep going. I'm not saying everyone comes out of it happy. A huge amount of people will die. It'll be really horrible. But
Just as long as it's not us. And as long as we keep doing the
Well, it
podcast.
probably will be us. Just in a tin shed, like,
Poster copy.
All
And then
right.
Ben Ellwood, I told you.
I fucking knew it. I'm right. I hope
out
I'm
there?
wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I've never hoped so much.
So you have hope that you're wrong?
I like being right.
Yeah.
And I hope to God that I'm wrong.
I
But
just think that,
you know.
You don't
Life-
think you
I don't think I am.
hope
life
that you are.
continues. Even if there's a huge ice age and most people die, there'll still be a few people in some weird part of Russia that are kicking it. Like, people
Do you think
continue.
humans deserve to survive?
Yeah.
That's a
Just
hard
doesn't
one.
matter,
I don't
hey?
know.
I know it doesn't.
Yeah.
And ultimately
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. I know that. And that gives me a lot of, maybe not hope, but it gives me a lot of peace.
Do
to
they
think,
deserve?
That gives me
It's a
peace.
hard question. I don't know. Do they deserve to survive?
Well, because
Does anything? I mean, in regards
Individual,
to
like there's
what?
some
Like,
people that deserve to survive.
I'm talking
Yeah, there's
like
heaps of
collective-
people that could
Yeah,
be
but
fucking wiped out now, and
but
the world would be better for it.
Absolutely, but there's individual humans are great. It's like collectively when humans get together, it's like the madness of crowds and like it's
Yeah.
a
Well, no,
bad,
we're
it's
tribal.
a bad fucking combo when a lot of people get together because it's tribalism kicks in and
Yeah.
genocidal tendencies kick in and that's what I mean. I guess there's the species as a whole, and I'm not one of these people that's like humanity's a cancer,
Yeah.
but. You know, it also ain't great. Like, humanity's
Yeah.
only been humanity for what, 10,000 years max? That's nothing. And a lot of bad shit's gone down. You know, and I'm not saying that other
bad
species.
shit
I'm not
will
saying that
always
other,
continue.
No, but I'm not saying other species aren't savage and stuff. But when you watch a nature documentary and you see an animal tearing another animal apart, it might be savage and it might be vicious, but it makes sense. It makes
Yeah.
some kind of cosmic sense. That animal needs to do that because it's got 8 puppies back at the den, and
Yeah,
if
it's
it doesn't
serving
get
their
a
children
meal,
or
they're going
something.
to die.
Yeah.
What we do collectively as a species,
Right.
maybe it makes sense on a cosmic scale from another perspective. Maybe it makes complete sense, but from where I'm sitting on the ground, a lot of it is insane and it makes no sense. And the way we treat each other and the way we treat, I sound like such an old hippie. I'm sorry.
You do.
But you know, like I guess that's what I mean. Like if there was some kind of like cataclysmic event,
Yeah.
would it be better for us to just, you know, we had our turn, go away, let, you know, whatever,
I
the
don't know
fucking
how you can,
snails rise
I
and
mean,
become...
I don't know. I
Maybe
mean,
we'd all, like, do you reckon most people would just be happier if they were dead? Like the majority of the world would probably just be happier
I
if
think
they'd never
most-
been born.
I think
They'd
most
be in
people-
peace. There'd be a lot
Yeah.
more peace.
most
Yeah,
people would be a
they'd
lot
be
happier if they
Like imagine
probably had a
if all those
simpler
girls
life.
that were like born into brothels were just never born.
Would you want to know the day and date of your death?
No, probably not.
I've only ever met one other person that says yes to it.
No, I can't see why it would serve anything good.
Oh, I think it would serve great.
Yeah, but that's
That'd
just
be
because
great.
you'd
Nah.
rank over it every day. Oh, 4 more days left.
No, I
plane's
think,
going
no,
down.
No, I
Fucking
think I
counting
would.
down.
I think I would. Like the only thing
I'd
that
love to
gives me
know.
comfort is like I hope euthanasia is real because I just want to be able to kill myself. Like I do. I want to be able. I think
If
I should
you-
have that control. I want to be able.
I
to
think
kill
people should
myself when I
definitely
wanna
have
be
that
able to kill
control.
myself.
What are you talking about? Like, you know, not if you're in a bad mood.
No,
Like,
not
you're
if
talking
I'm
if
in a
you're
bad mood.
diseased
Just
and
like,
fucked up.
well, just like eventually when I've had enough.
See, yeah, I agree with that. The idea that this isn't forever is very reassuring to me.
Oh,
See,
definitely.
I
wanna be alive for as long as
It's
possible.
what
I'm
gives
like-
life all its meaning. fact
I'm the
that it's
most
not
like
forever.
hopeful person at this table. I love
Bad state
seeing.
of affairs.
Yeah, it fucking is rough, man. But I love
Oh.
seeing change, and I love seeing
But only if it's
things
good
happen.
change.
No, because even the
Not
bad,
if it's jackboots in the fucking
there
street.
is no good without bad. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
fucking exist.
It's easy
You
to say
understand?
that
Like,
from the sidelines, but if it's you that's being fucking
I've had heaps
stepped
of
into...
fucking horrible things happen to me, like pretty
true,
horrific
it's true,
shit.
it's true.
And there is no good without bad. I know I sound like
Yeah.
a crazy old wog, but it's like unless there is sadness, there is no joy. Like this is what life is like. This is what fucking happens. Like this is how it is.
Gesticulating like a fucking 90-year-old
Because this is what it
Italian
is.
grandmother.
Because you're like, I just don't want to
No,
feel
no.
bad.
No, fuck you. I never said
happy.
that.
But
I never said that.
You will not.
I'm happy with the sadness.
Yes, but the high and the joy and the, intense pleasure and euphoria is all happening because of the other side.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, so it's like it fucking balances out. So that's why you have hope, because the hope comes from when something fucked happens. There is a part of you. There is an animal part of you. There is a reason why you're not killing yourself today, because you know deep down, oh, this hurts so much. This fucking sucks. But I'm going to get to experience that euphoria again. And then when
Absolutely.
people
But isn't
lose
it like
that is when they're usually medicated or they've usually ended their life. Because that hope, even if you can't articulate it or you can't identify it as a clear feeling in your brain, is there in the way that all of our animal brain is
I said
there.
it is.
In that we like trudge along.
Of course.
You know,
It's
like
the
the
reason
whole
I don't
thing,
run
it
off a cliff,
rains
of
glass.
course.
People are still going to be going, oh, well, we better move into a cave then. You know, it's like we keep going.
But like, I don't think like I'd care. Like, wait. What was the thing? Like, if you.
I was just saying there's always a presence of hope, even if you can't identify. Like, I've suffered from depression pretty badly. I know a lot of people who have. When I don't mean where you're like in a hole for a day. You're in a real fucking hole. And there's a reason why you keep going. There's a reason why you get up, even if you don't know it. And at the time, I haven't known it, where I've just been like, I'm going to feel like this forever. But there is an animal part that's ticking along that goes, well, one day you're going to wake up and it won't be there.
Mine's just like, don't disappoint your mum.
That's a good one. That's a big one.
That's just what I live for. It's like, just don't
bum mum out.
Yeah, don't bum mum out. Like, don't, like, she brought you into this world, and like now she lives, like, you know, her life has revolved around you. If you fuck up, then you've not only fucked up your life, but you've fucked up hers too. So
well, that's also why we're tribal, because it keeps people going.
That's a hugely mature, great place to get to. You know, because you got to get past that adolescent. Fuck you, man.
Oh, definitely.
Like, it feels great to get into that place where you take on that responsibility, and you're kind of, you become conscious of what they did.
Yeah.
And how hard
what
it fucking is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And how I was just like crazy, and she's just put up with me. But she's crazy too, but
everybody's crazy. Everybody's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like that would bring people a lot more peace as well, if there was that acknowledgement of, this is fucking intense and it's difficult and complicated. Is it just me, or do people, for the most part, seem quite blasé about life? Or
they're just coping.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
Coping.
Like, to me, it's like it's very rare to have conversations where people are like, "Whoa, man, this life thing is pretty full on." Everyone's just like, "Oh yeah, being alive, yeah, went down to the fucking vineyard and had some cheese tasting."
not if you hang out with comics a bit though. Like, I feel like I'm always talking about how
it's going to end.
Yeah, how it's going to end, how we're going to die. Like, my boyfriend's a comic too. Like, we were just like always talking about like how we're going to die.
Is Zach one of those people?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I always thought he was like a
more
super
than
positive
me.
guy. Really?
More than
Really?
me.
He's
He
like
made me more neurotic.
Wow.
Like, I used to think everyone, because I didn't understand like words, I used to think everyone in comedy was so good.
Oh, no.
I was like, absolutely, everyone is great. Otherwise, why would they be on the stage, right? Like, I just didn't get it. I was like, why would they let just someone just like go up on stage if they weren't good, right?
So cocky.
So I just thought like everyone was like so good. And then Zach was like, no, they're not good. They're not, what are you talking about?
No, most people are
and then I
terrible.
and then I realized, and then like now I'm like a lot more bitter and like, a lot less hopeful. But I used to be like so like supportive of other comedians. I'd be like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's like collaborate. Like, I want to support you and like all that sort of stuff. Like,
those days are gone.
No, the longer you do it, the smaller your circle becomes.
Yeah.
Talk to these 3 people.
just fucking hell.
I'm with a comic and we look forward to little things, but I think it's because we both know mentally that that's how we cope and work.
What?
By looking forward to heaps of little things. Like I'll be like he'll be like, oh, I'm going to cook this. And that's like a really meditative thing to do.
Yeah.
To be like, I'm going to make this. I'm going to like, you know, or we'll be like, oh, we're going to go on holiday here. And we're both really obsessive people. And I think we both know, or I know, and I think Chris is aware of it too, that it's like if we don't obsess on the great stuff, it'll turn dark. We both make a choice. And I like going home and even though we both do comedy, not talking about comedy and being like, hey, where are we going to travel to, or what are we going to do, or what do you want to make on Friday, or what takeout do you like, focusing on the little things, because I think it's just how people cope.
Yeah, I think that's a large
Yeah.
deficiency with me is I do not fill my days with enough tasks and thus sit around contemplating the end of the world.
I think humans,
Yeah, that's what I do.
thrive with purpose.
Of course.
And you...
Well, because your brain's too sophisticated.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not talking about me
Yeah.
specifically. I'm talking just
No,
humans.
everybody,
So
yeah.
it just eats itself if it's got nothing to do.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, he put it really well one time. He's like, setting yourself tasks is like setting an obstacle course for your neuroses. It's so fucking
No,
true.
but it's good. Like I
It's
felt good
very
yesterday
good.
because I did because I wash my clothes and clean my house and stuff, and doing those little things can make you feel
Of course.
Oh, they make me
a lot
feel...
better. Like
a
I went out
million
and got
times
in a
better.
fight but it made me feel good for 6 hours. So whatever.
I think we need purpose. It's very important.
We should start bringing this to a close.
Hey, Sean,
Any
what-
final thoughts on hope?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Have some.
I'm just scared of it.
Yeah, no, I relate to you. I wish I could be more like you, Jen.
I got heaps.
I'm so scared of
We're
it.
alive. Come on. You know how many people aren't? It's fabulous.
Yeah.
No.
You know, there's more
You know how many people are in pain?
Yeah,
We're
fuck
sitting
them,
here.
I'm jealous.
We've got coffee. No. There are people who
No,
are
no,
suffering.
no. That's mean to my mum.
There are people who are suffering so badly every day. You
No,
know,
I know, I know.
we're here. We're lucky. People
That's
go
true.
through agony.
I
every
got to
day.
remember that it's not that big a deal. Nothing's that big a deal. Hey,
Well, I mean, there is you have a
you
right
could
to
fuck
your
up
pain.
and then it would be a big deal.
No, you have a
Yeah.
If you
complete.
kill someone, then it will be a big deal. That's the thing.
I reckon.
I just don't want to
Get my
live.
L's, and the first time I back out of the driveway, I run over a baby.
I think the thing we've learned is just don't kill anyone.
We'll try. Yeah,
well,
try,
you
not,
can
try
try-
not to kill everyone, ladies and gentlemen.
But it might. Yeah, we can't avoid it. Sometimes.
Do you have a suggestion for
word?
a word for our next guest?
So,
Or for someone to pick out. We've had Justin Hamilton gave us optimism. Dan Towns gave us guilt.
Dan Towns gave us
okay.
guilt.
Betrayal.
Awesome.
Oh, nice one.
Thank you.
Sean, thank you for doing our podcast.
Oh, good. Thank
Do you have any
so much.
social medias or anything like that?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram.
Yeah, cool. How do we
What
follow
is
you on
it?
Instagram?
Sian Smyth.
Awesome.
So spell it. SIAN.
SIANSMYTH. It's
very
spelled completely wrong.
Sian Smyth, follow her on Instagram and talk to her about having some goddamn hope. Thanks so much for listening to Oink Time. You can find us at Oink Time Pod. You can rate us 5 stars, do all that. Check out Sean, our producer's podcast. Sean.
Woo!
Yes, he's awesome. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
In brackets with Sean Allen. And of course, thank you, Young Henrys, for being our sponsor. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.